Let's get to what took place last night at FedEx Forum. Roser actually went to the game last night, the Tigers versus Wichita State. Before we get into Tigers-Wichita State, I wanted to ask you, Gary, because I don't know the answer to this. Where is Greg Marshall?
He's just like living his life. I don't know if he's still in Wichita, but he is like very quietly, totally off the radar, living his life. And what's interesting, before he got forced into this situation, people had always said about him, one day he's just going to retire and move to the beach, and he'll just be living with his millions of dollars on the beach. So I think he's probably living the same life he was always going to live, just got to it a little quicker because he was like quite literally forced out of the sport.
Because it's impossible, with something like last night, it's impossible, at least for me, to see that jersey, to think about Wichita and not think of Greg Marshall. And it dawned on me, like, this guy was one of the best coaches in all of college basketball. Yes. We talked about the beard thing last week. I mean, these are two guys that were very high-strung, very emotional guys for different reasons, abusive reasons, honestly. Sure. Both of them are early exits from the sport. But then last night, as you got that thing on, I'm like, I don't even know what happened to that guy. Is he at some small school, or did he
he's nowhere.
Vanish into the ether?
He has vanished. I imagine he's watching sunsets and sipping wine and playing golf and living that life in a pretty tight-knit circle. Think about this. Every time you see that jersey, you think of Greg Marshall. The only reason Wichita State played at FedEx Forum last night is because of Greg Marshall. They wouldn't even be in this league.
Right.
It's the same reason Butler got in the Big East, because of Brad Stevens.
Yep.
Like, Brad Stevens was so great, he was able to elevate their conference affiliation, and Greg Marshall was that same thing for Wichita State. Listen, he did what he did, and there's a price to pay for that. But that's a guy that I had.
You think done forever?
Forever's a long time. I think in the moment, or even within a couple of years, we always say he'll never coach again. And then you look up and like Dave Bliss was coaching again. So
good point.
He tried to frame a murder victim as a drug dealer.
Yeah.
All right, and he coached again. So I would never say never, but I would lean toward probably not for two reasons. Because it's hard to hire a guy who's got this on his Wikipedia page, and because I don't know that Greg's that interested in going back and coaching at the level at which he could get one of these jobs.
Starting back over at Winthrop or wherever, isn't that where he started?
Yeah, like he could maybe go get the Winthrop job again. I don't know if he wants to do that again. He's got a lot of money. He's got a lot of money. And again, the people who I got to know him and his family, him and his wife, and
they invited us to their house for moonshine. I bet they're probably out of that now.
We were at a
final. we missed our chance.
Like we were at that Final Four party, and we were hanging out with Greg and his wife.
That's right.
And they literally invited us to Wichita to come drink moonshine with them. That's a true story.
They make moonshine.
Yes.
Well, so they didn't run out. They didn't run out if they can just make it.
I don't know.
Keep making moonshine.
So I like Greg Marshall. He was always cool with me.
Yeah.
He never punched me in the head.
Yep.
But his career totally derailed by his behavior.
Yep.
And he was one of the great college basketball coaches, and it's
just odd that you like a guy that was that high profile in that sport. That's what dawned on me last night when I see that jersey. You're near that big a deal.
Right.
This guy was like in Final Fours. This guy, people knew this guy. This guy was mega famous.
Yeah.
And then he's just gone.
And
it's like
he's off the grid.
You realize he would have been the UCLA coach after Ben Howland. They wanted to talk to him. I was out in LA for that regional. Wichita State beat, I believe, Ohio State in the Elite Eight to go to the Final Four. It was at Staples Center, or what used to be Staples Center. And my understanding of that situation was UCLA wanted to talk to him. And he said, I'm not talking to anybody until my season's done, period. But if you wait, he quietly said, if you just wait, I'll talk to you. And all indications were, I'll be your coach. And they wouldn't wait. And so he ended up getting a big raise to stay at Wichita State, and Steve Alford got the job. But this guy was so good, he could have had the UCLA job. All he had to do was take the meeting and say, as soon as the season's over, I'll accept your job.
Wow.
Which happens all the time in college basketball.
And that's a bona fide blue blood.
Yes.
So he would have had one.
And then the Koch brothers paid him to stay at Wichita State. He was making like $3.3 million a year to coach at Wichita State, because the Koch brothers, the famous Koch brothers, they lived in Wichita. They have a compound in Wichita, and they have endless amount. Like, these guys, deal. They I don't want to say buy elections, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
They throw money into they can get presidents elected or not.
Yep.
And they were funding that entire deal, and then to have it just all unravel so quickly. It's a sad story.
No,
Again, he did it to himself, but it's a sad story.
The movie, it's hilarious. Will Ferrell, Zach Galifianakis, The Campaign.
Right.
The Campaign.
Yeah.
It's Dan Aykroyd and John Lithgow. They play two brothers, and they're called the Mock Brothers.
Same thing.
And it's exactly what they're based off of. Are those two
Like
guys.
if you're driving through Wichita, you reach a point where you see like a big stone or brick wall, and it's like, what is going on inside there? And it's like, that's the Koch brothers compound.
Oh, wow.
It's just like you drive right by it, you can't see in it, and it's
There
quite
ain't nobody that doesn't have crazy money that has a compound.
Yeah. So,
You know what I mean? You never heard of just a regular dude having a compound.
and the problem with Greg, to circle back to the initial one, like where is Greg Martin? That's somebody I talked to pretty regularly back then. But when it all went down, you have to write some things and
it's
say
over.
some things, and I just never felt comfortable like reaching out and saying, "Hey, buddy."
You should call him. Hey, you know what? I'm watching this Memphis Wichita game, and
You know what?
I wonder whatever happened to you.
You know what? If I called him, like when I walk out of here, if I called him, I would assume he would answer, and it would be a pleasant conversation. He'd probably be happy to hear from somebody.
That's crazy.
But it's so awkward. Like I haven't reached out.
It is awkward.
I
What do
haven't-
you say to
what
a
do you
guy
say?
that like?
Yeah.
So
And
how's
it's
it
not-
going? What have you been doing?
Yeah, and it's not like he got fired for text messaging
That's
too
right.
much. Like he allegedly hit a guy in the head. You know, he punched somebody.
Yep.
And so it's the same thing. I haven't reached out to Chris Beard. That's somebody I liked. It's just these conversations are awkward.
No, very awkward.
Perhaps I should be more
Yeah.
like out
And-
there.
and
But
he's
it's just,
it's understandable. It's hard.
And he doesn't want to start over at like how Patino is like just coaching what Iona.
Yeah, but like Rick is the type of guy who it wasn't hard for me to envision Rick doing that because he like loves to be in the gym. Like
Right.
Rick, like I remember when
Needs
Rick
it.
needs it. Like when Rick was out for a little while, like I was considering writing a book with him. He had reached out to me about that, and it just felt like a bad idea at the time because I was going to have to end up telling a bunch of stories that I might not believe.
Right.
So I was just, I don't want to be. Like on the good side, I could be a New York Times bestselling author.
Yeah.
On the bad side, I got to peddle a bunch of stories that, as much as I like Rick, probably aren't 100% true. So I just stayed away from it. But we were having conversations in those times, and he was like, people think I miss putting a suit on and being on national television. He's like, that is not what I miss. I miss individual workouts. I miss being in the gym. I always assumed he would coach again because he really does need to coach. He loves being in the gym.
All right, before we get into last night's game, all right, what'd you think? I mean, we talked last week where we said this team is so reliant on Kendrick Davis and DeAndre Williams, their ability to stay on the court, and both of them being really good. Like, this was the DeAndre Williams night, right?
Yeah, DeAndre Williams was awesome, but that's not what the first like 10 to 12 minutes of the game were brutal. I mean, it was a foul a minute. It was just fouls. The score was like 12-10 after like 10 minutes. It's just nothing's and then the pace started to pick up. Memphis made shots. Like, Keontae Kennedy hit threes last night. Like, Memphis hit 10 threes last night. Like, I don't know what like Devin texted us last night. He goes, when's the last time Memphis hit 10 threes?
They hit 11.
11. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I have no idea when it was, but that was part of it that made it fun. Like, dude, they made shots. Keontae Kennedy, because Devin and I always talk. You watch, like, McCadden and Keontae Kennedy. You just watch them catch the ball, rise, and shoot. It looks great. It just, for some reason,
Never goes in.
Never goes in. And Kennedy made them last night. He scored like 16, 17.
Yeah, Wichita team is
They're not
like
good.
just a
No, they're
man.
not good.
It's
No,
a man
they're-
team,
they're-
right?
It's a bad team.
Yeah, no, they're not good.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to end up making a coaching change, I would assume, at some point soon. They got in one of those deals where they had an interim coach, and he did well with that team.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, we got to hire him. They were probably going to hire Mark Turgeon. Like, Turgeon was on,
Oh, wow.
Turgeon was on the hot seat at Maryland. Evidence being he's no longer at Maryland.
Right.
But at the time he was, and there was in coaching circles, it was like he had some high-level boosters in Wichita who loved him. Turge used to be there. He was going to go back there, get away from the hot seat at Maryland, and be the next coach at Wichita State. And then the interim coach did so well, they were like, we have to hire this guy. It feels like, and it looks like that might have been a short-term decision instead of a long-term decision.
So you liked what you saw last night?
No, I would be more concerned with the defense. I mean, giving up 70, what was it, Dude, giving up 78 to that team was.
You thought they were.
Yeah,
they thought they were lame.
Yeah, no,
All right.
they were not good.
Well, interestingly enough, Memphis, they are not projected. They're only projected on the KenPom site to lose 3 more games, but one of them is Sunday against Cincinnati. Yep. What do I need to know about them? Cincinnati.
They're okay, but not like. Here's the truth: it's Houston, and then Memphis, and then everybody else in the league. Central Florida's okay, but not. They're better than I thought they'd be, but they're not what I would call a good team. Mm-hmm. I've never once considered putting them in my top 25 and one.
Well, and they blew that game.
Yes.
That was the triple overtime, or the double overtime game.
Yeah, Memphis should have won that game. Yep. And I do think Memphis is better than Central Florida. You put them on a neutral court, I think Memphis wins that game. Everybody else in the league is at best okay and at worst terrible. Mm-hmm. And that's the problem with this league is that...
What?
Landers Nolly!
Well, you do get that.
Revenge
He's
game?
averaging 15 a game. He leads them in scoring.
Oh, for goodness sakes.
No, he's like a real player.
No, he's going to try. He's going to try to go off.
Oh, yeah. He'll give it his best shot.
Yeah.
And he'll take a lot of them. Cincinnati is good enough to beat Memphis in that building, which is why Memphis is probably going to be a slight underdog. Mm-hmm. But Memphis is the better team. And this is the main issue that Memphis is going to run into over the next, really through Selection Sunday. We've talked about it before. There's really only places to take bad losses.
Yeah.
There's not places to get great wins. And so you can't lose a game and be like, okay, we'll make up for that.
Yeah.
Every time they lose, you're going to see them go, okay, they were an 8 seed. Now they're a 10. Lose again. Now they're on the bubble. Lose again. Now they're on the wrong side of the bubble. They really have to avoid these bad losses, and that's just not easy to do. Right now, if I were Penny Hardaway, I'd rather be in a power conference where I'm playing real games more regularly because I can lose one and make up for it. Right now, for the most part, you lose them and they're hard to make up for.
It has helped that, when you even go back to he did schedule hard in the non-conference.
Yes.
And so they got enough of those games when they played against Auburn and got that win. And they played against A&M and
some of that's coming around good for them right now.
The Bama thing looks great.
The Bama thing looks great. Getting the win over Auburn. Auburn is rolling now.
Yep.
Texas A&M is undefeated in the SEC right now. And Seton Hall is starting to win games. And so, that Seton Hall loss, it's still a bad loss in the sense that you took a win and flipped it into a loss. Mm-hmm. But it's not looking like as bad of a loss today as it looked even 2 weeks ago or at the time that it happened. So
and they've only lost 5 games. So, you're talking about, right? You know what I'm saying?
Was it the Seton Hall game that's when the dude banked in the
Yes.
And the guy's never made a 3 before or something?
Yes.
Was it something like
but that kind of stuff happens.
Yeah.
The more problematic thing was, I think it was Chandler lost passing the ball when all you had to do was hold it.
Yeah.
Just hold it, make them foul you, go back to the free throw line. Instead, he tried to pass it, and then you get the turnover, and then it led to that. That was the bigger deal in that moment. Guys are going to make lucky shots, but in that situation, the guy should have never even had an opportunity.
Yeah, the only obviously the Tulane one was bad, giving up 96 to them. But, they lost that game to Seton Hall by 1. They lost the game to St. Louis by 6. They ended up losing to Bama by 3. And then they lost that double overtime game by 3. So, all in all, though, we're not you look at it at 14-5, and I know they don't have a chance to get any great wins outside of Houston. Even to this point, they've probably been better than what the excitement level has deemed. Is that fair?
Sure, because we got used to big time recruiting classes and 5-star guys and projected lottery picks, and this team just had none of that.
Right.
Kendrick Davis is a tremendous college basketball player, but that's what he is. He's a tremendous college basketball player. He's not going to show up on mock drafts. So the level of excitement entering the season wasn't where it had previously been. But this is a solid basketball team.
I don't think it's as much about not having the huge recruits as it is not having people that you know. You just don't have stock in these guys. You don't know them.
Right.
Lomax, that's it. And DeAndre. But
right now.
But this is DeAndre's what? Second year? Third year? Second year.
DeAndre Williams?
3 year. Third year.
If you took the Tiger basketball players out of uniforms and just walked them through the streets of Memphis, how many would get recognized? Alex Lomax, obviously.
That's right.
DeAndre Williams, for sure. Kendrick Davis, I guess, at this point. Outside of that, you wouldn't know. How about this? How many Tiger basketball players does William know?
I would say he'd know Kendrick, he'd know DeAndre.
I don't think my kids would know any of them.
That's who he'd know.
Yeah. My kids know John Morant and Jaren Jackson.
Yeah.
They don't.
Well, and this is hilarious. So last year, they sell, because of the NIL thing, they sell those shirt jerseys now in the arena. So when we came to a game, guess the one we bought last year, because this is one you can actually, have stock in a guy and be rooting for him for a long time. We bought Josh Minot.
Josh Minot was playing against the Hustle last Sunday.
And he's I'm like, all right, here's the one guy that will be here next year.
Right.
And I bet wrong on that.
And that's going to be a fairly normal thing in college basketball, roster turnover. Very few teams are going to,
bring
look
guys
the same.
back.
Yeah, because, there's always going to be a higher bidder out there. Yeah. I mean, if you don't have real name, image, and likeness money behind you, you're going to be at risk of losing any of your players.
Well, so I think everybody was in shock and awe when they see this whole story about Rashada, the quarterback from Florida, the $13 million that fell through and whatever else, and everybody's like, wait, what? There was a brief bit of time where everybody was talking about that Tennessee quarterback and the huge pot of gold he got. What do you think these guys are getting? Like a regular old guy? Do you talk to coaches about this?
Yes.
What's an average? If I'm trying to go get a 4-star player, what do I need to come to the table with to even have a chance?
A 4-star player at a high school, that's not going to be – you don't have to get $100,000 to get that done.
$100,000?
No. I'm saying I don't think you have to do that.
Okay.
What coaches have told me is that where name, image, and likeness is really a big deal, and if you don't have it, you can't compete, is with retaining your players. Because it's not going out and getting a guy ranked 74th in the country. You can still get that kind of stuff done. The 5 stars they're gonna cost. Mm-hmm. There are coaches who are telling prospective student athletes in the recruiting process, I can guarantee you $75,000 over the next year. I can guarantee you $400,000 over the next year. I've heard that there is a coach. I can't prove this. I've heard that there is a coach promising every recruit, I can guarantee you'll make $1 million in your first year at my school.
$1 million?
$1 million. I mean, you can maybe guess the program.
Kentucky?
I mean, they have the 2 and
they've only got 4 of the top 10 recruits in the country.
Dude, they have. I looked at 24/7 yesterday. They have 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah.
And 9.
Yeah.
But it's not even of the top 10. It's literally the first guy, and then 2, 3, 4 all say Kentucky next to it.
Oh, sure. If Cal can get
God.
through this year without the fans wanting to murder him, they got it set up where they should be rocking and rolling again next year. But where it becomes more problematic for coaches is let's say, I don't know, you enroll a top 75 guy, and then his freshman season, he's your Big East freshman of the year. Mm-hmm. Averages 15.4 points. That guy is going to have staffs all over the country reaching out and saying, how much money are you making? Because we can get you more. You want a good example? I have no idea. Nobody has told me this is happening. I guarantee you this is happening. Cam Jones from right here at ECS. He's playing at Marquette right now, averaging 15 points a game for a top 20 team. I guarantee you somebody's trying to buy him off that campus. If they're not already, they'll be doing it. I talked to a mid-major coach a few weeks ago, and he said by January of last season, his top 2 scorers had offers from high major programs, legitimate money offers. Hey, have a nice rest of your season, but as soon as it's over, call us. We got something for you.
And the only way you can curb that is the transfer.
You got to go out, you got to.
Because otherwise it is just going to become free agency. Right?
Unless you go back to making players sit out a year.
Yep.
Which they're not going to do. Then this is what it's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, look at it. It's the same in football. I had one of the football coaches at Memphis, in fact. I don't think they'd mind. But one of the football coaches, I remember when I was out with them one night, said, you got to understand, Darrell Henderson never plays his junior year here anymore.
That's right.
We're just in a different world now. In order to keep that guy, do you know? I mean, because every school, and he's averaging 10 yards a rush. Well, you know what I mean? How are we keeping him?
You can't keep him. The best example in college basketball last offseason was a kid named Nigel Pack. He was at Kansas State. He was a good player on a bad team. Mm-hmm. But that Miami booster, John Ruiz, literally signed him to a 2-year, $800,000 contract. And, let it be known, All you got to do is enroll at Miami, get in the transfer portal, commit to Miami, and I got it on paper, a 2-year, $800,000 contract for you to promote via social media my company. That's why Nigel Peck went to Miami. There is no other reason, He didn't dream about playing in the ACC for Jim Larinaga, doesn't love the beach. It was strictly, if I go to this place, they will give me $800,000 to play basketball for 2 years.
Let's assume that, that the guys are going to get great deals at, like, let's say, a Kentucky, right? This is a good example. They're 2, 3, and 4, okay? Mm-hmm. And let's say they hated Cal's guts. He ends up losing a ton. They get mopped in the SEC tournament, and they do actually run him out. They say, you know what, talent's never been the problem with this guy. Right. We're done. Like, it's run its course. We're done. Does this make it much harder in order to, because he would pick up and take that recruiting class to wherever he could go, like he once did with Memphis. And so that's kind of the thing that would hang over.
Sure.
But I do wonder if you're getting these deals and whatever, there's probably the commitment that's not, like, I almost think it might be harder.
Well, the wording is
to run with them.
Well, the wording is never going to be the way I just explained it. That's the understanding.
Yeah.
They're not going to put that in the contract because then you might get into some problems legally, perhaps with the NCAA. So nobody's ever going to – Nigel Peck didn't sign a contract that says you got to be at Miami 2 years. That's all understood.
Mm-hmm.
And so –
But wouldn't you think it's the Kentucky people or whatever school for that matter?
Yeah.
They're the ones funding the whole thing, so you would just have to set up that the other school's going to fund it or whatever, right?
But John would never have any problem
getting
– like the type of school that could hire John Calipari, John would rally those people in 4 hours and have that money available. And
so you don't think that changes anything?
No. I think if I were John Calipari, I would right now be talking to or having my people talk to Texas, or let's say Chris Holtman takes the Notre Dame job for some reason. Ohio State opens. Any of these big schools, I'd have my people talking to them and saying, hey,
we're set. You guys are set?
I am bringing the #1 recruiting class in America with me. Mm-hmm. Just understand, you're not just paying $9 million for me.
Right.
I'm bringing you the best recruiting class in the country, and we'll be rocking and rolling from day one. All I need is commitment from these rich guys to fund it, and he would have that, again, in a matter of hours.
But you think for just a regular guy, it's not some crazy money necessarily. You're off the front end. What guys are getting coming out of high school.
I don't think that's crazy unless you're talking about like the best of the best, like the DJ Wagner.
You're not even getting in the game unless you got crazy money.
You're not getting in the game. And like what?
But let's say that kid that's coming to Memphis. He's 22nd, I think.
Yeah,
Mikey Williams. But Mikey Williams doesn't even need your money.
Yeah,
he's got more money than me and you combined.
Yeah, I'm certain there's a name, image, and likeness deal in place there. But like DJ Wagner, it was coming down to Louisville or Kentucky. That's what it was going to be.
Right.
And then the way you knew it was going to be Kentucky is Nike signed DJ Wagner to an endorsement deal, name, image, and likeness deal. Well, you ain't going to an Adidas school like Louisville if you just signed that Nike deal. So there's a lot of different places where this is in play. And the numbers at the top of the sport are big. Like Drew Timmy's making $2 million this year. That's the number I was told. Like Drew Timmy's making roughly $2 million. Oscar Tshiebwe in that same ballpark.
$2 million?
Who does Gonzaga have that pays that? John Stockton?
Not John Stockton. but they got, there is not a school in the country that doesn't have a super rich person connected to it. Or at least very few. This is the point I've made in name, image, and likeness. With name, image, and likeness being what it is, and the transfer portal and the one-time transfer waiver, if you decided you just love women's soccer, like it's your favorite, so you're a billionaire who loves women's soccer, and you also love Southern Miss. I have no idea what Southern Miss women's soccer program is, but just play along. You love Southern Miss, you have more money than you know what to do with, and you love women's soccer. You could turn Southern Miss into the best women's soccer program in the country just by going out and offering the top 7 high school players in the country $1 million.
Well, Brett Favre tried to do it with the volleyball team. So.
But this is what's crazy when you say like something like that, when you've heard that about Drew Timme.
Mm-hmm.
Santi Aldama gets paid $2 million.
Oh, yeah.
Desmond Bain makes $2 million.
Yes. Well, this is this is why people automatically just assume like.
And you only played 35 games when you're in college. These guys are playing 82.
Well, it's not a coincidence that all these guys came back. People are like, "Can you believe it? Oscar Tshiebwe's back in school. Drew Timmy's back in school. Hunter Dixon, Trace Jackson Davis, Armando Bacot." In a different time, 5 years ago, none of those guys are in school anymore because they'd just be like, hey, I am what I am as a prospect. I'm going to have to play my way into the NBA. I might as well get on with it and make whatever money I can make. Now, if you're the coach at Carolina, Kentucky, Gonzaga, Michigan, anywhere, you can look these guys in the eyes and say, the truth is you can make more money over the next year playing college basketball for me than you can make anywhere else in the world, because you're not going to get a $2 million NBA contract right now. You're a second-round pick or an undrafted player, and you can get a contract in the league, but we can give you more money to play college basketball. That's why I'm not certain Oscar Tshiebwe's done after this year or Drew Timmy's done after this year. Those guys, it is in their best interest to keep playing college basketball as long as they can, because their NBA futures are uncertain, but their college basketball futures, as long as they have eligibility, they can literally make millions of dollars.
Wait, Drew Timmy has another year?
It's that COVID thing. Everybody got it.
I mean, you do wonder, like with somebody like, let's just say, and the Grizzlies made him whole and gave him the best deal that anybody's gotten in the second round.
Right.
But Kennedy Chandler makes 1.2. You know what I mean? Now, it goes up every year, but you do wonder with somebody like that.
Oh, I feel comfortable saying this. If Kennedy Chandler would have let it be known, I'm in the transfer portal, and I'm going to play college basketball next season, who's got offers? He could have got more than $1.2 million.
Yeah. He might not have gotten, but what I'm saying, he locked in 4 years, which is why you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
you can at least feel great about the fact that for 4 years, and his contract goes up to 2.2, right? So, I mean, he's set.
Yeah,
at least for 4 years.
Yeah, but a guy like, and he just wanted to be in the NBA as opposed to college and all that stuff. I get it. I'm not second guessing, but that is the thing. You're going to see more and more of this. Guys who are first-round picks, they're just going to go. They're going to go. But second-round picks and guys who are like, could get picked, might not get picked, the guys who used to go anyway, they're going to stay in school now because there's
Unless they're Josh Minot and I've got the Scherzi.
Yeah. But that's another guy who just was ready to be done with college and get on with it. Plus,
there's some that only go to college because they have to for a stop.
That's right. And I can tell you, like, I'm not out on the grassroots circuit as much as I used to be, but in recent years, I really noticed when it comes to talking to these high school prospects, the best of the best, they never talk about the Final Four. They never talk about, it's always been my dream to win an AC. They don't talk about college basketball at all. It's almost like this is something I have to do to get where I'm trying to get to. They don't automatically. That's not their dream.
And the crazy thing about that is that almost to a man, every single Grizzly that I've ever interviewed, when you ask them about their favorite times, will say that 1 year at college.
Carmelo Anthony says that.
Every one of them.
Yeah.
Mike Conley says it.
Yeah.
All of them. Like, you know, I had to make a business decision when I did, but I loved being in college.
Well, because
that 1 year, because you don't realize walking into a damn job. It's a job now.
And you also, once you walk away from that, like this is probably true. Drew Timme, whenever he leaves Gonzaga, will likely never be the best player on any team he ever plays on again. Mm-hmm. So that's over. And in college, Marcus Smart is, I used to, when I was younger, I was like, if you're a top 10 pick, you have to go or you're an idiot, right? I knew what everybody should do. And I had a conversation with Marcus Smart when he came back for his sophomore year at Oklahoma State. And it was enlightening for me. And he said, I was like, listen, why did you come back to school? Because you were, I think Travis Ford told me Marcus Smart, in whatever draft it was after his freshman year, would have been a top 3 pick. That was the information. He will go in the top 3. And Marcus Smart came back to school.
He went like 7th.
Whatever it was.
Yeah.
And he said, man, I know I'm risking something, but I think the money's always going to be there for me. I'm confident enough it's going to be there. Right now, I'm living with my best friend. I'm the best player on my team. I'm having a blast, and I didn't want to give this up. I didn't want to move out of my apartment with my best friends and go be a role player in the NBA right now. I'll do that someday, but I wanted to come back, try to win a national championship, live with my best friends, play with my best friends. That really meant something to him, and that is literally the moment where I stopped telling college basketball players,
"You're crazy."
Yeah, because that means something. That's worth something. Is it what I would do? Maybe not. But I can understand why somebody else would choose that.
No.
What was the money that there were reports that Ohio State they had ponied up a lot trying to keep CJ Stroud.
Oh, there's no amount.
They said it was
no amount you can pony up.
No, it was somewhere like $4 to $6 million.
Yeah,
they were trying to give him.
What coaches have told me is you can't do anything about that. Mm-hmm. Like you're not. Who's the Brandon Miller? Alabama's not keeping Brandon Miller.
No chance.
No chance. But it's the second round. The guys who used to, they'd go because they're comfortable with being picked 38th.
Yep.
You can get those guys back in school now.
Yep.
Especially if they're, and where you can really capitalize on it, awesome traditional bigs who still flourish in college basketball, but there's no place for them in the NBA, or at least not a lot of places for them in the NBA. Those guys are the ones like, everybody called this the year of the big man. That's going to be every year in college basketball because the great bigs that are traditional bigs, they're going to get paid millions of dollars to come back to school. And the alternative is go to the NBA where they don't really want you anyway.
He is Gary
I am
Parrish,
Gary
CBS
Parrish.
Sports and Grind City Media. Let's take a quick break.